You know, obviously not like I was, but we are getting them. Complaints galore.
Yeah.
Hey folks, anybody that's listening in, first of all, welcome and good morning. We're waiting for Mayor Fioentini, so we'll just be a few more moments. But for anybody who's from the media or anyone else who wants a recording of this conversation, we are going to be recording it, and we're happy to distribute it.
All right.
There you are.
We're all set, Lisa.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Uh,
I've been online, you know. I don't know why. I had to get off and get on again.
Huh.
Can you see me and hear me now?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
You're good to go. And Mayor, we've got some people on the line here, and we are streaming live on Facebook. So
Great.
let me just kick it off and just make sure everyone knows the rules of the road here.
Well, let me talk to our technical expert, Kate Martin.
Yeah, she's right here. She's feeding me the information.
Kate, is there a way that I can have this stream live on my Facebook page too?
You know the answer to that question? Do you want to give Sean Regan a call real quick? All right. Mayor, we're going to give Sean a quick call. Kate's going to do that in the background here.
Sean, did you hear that?
Mayor. Yes, we're right here. Yes.
Okay. All right, good.
All right.
All right, I'm ready to go.
So Mayor, thank you. And Joe, good to be with you. My name is Dougan. I'm the president of the chamber in Haverhill here, the Haverhill Chamber. We've got folks who have logged in through Zoom and also live on Facebook. For anybody that does have a question for the mayor or for his team, we're just asking that you use, if you're on through Zoom, that you use either the chat function or the Q&A function. The mayor, we are not going to be able to hear people if you're speaking. And if you're on Facebook, we're also going to be monitoring the chat function on that. And we're going to see how this goes, and hopefully we'll be able to make sure that any questions that folks have are answered, and that and Mayor, we'll make sure that you have the information coming to you as people do have questions for you.
I'll make your phone too.
Oh, wait a minute. Sure.
Get it set up for Facebook for me. Hey, Kate. Kate? Hello? Hey, Kate.
Webinars in the 21st century here. So there you are. Mayor,
Yeah.
I'm here.
we've got your Director of Inspectional Services, Richard McDonald, on the line. I think we might be also going to have Bonnie Dufresne, the Deputy Inspector, Inspectional Director. But why don't I leave it to you, sir, to make some remarks about the big news that occurred this week at the state level, and we'll begin our discussion about how that's going to affect all the businesses in Haverhill.
Well, starting this week, starting with the governor's announcement on Monday, we transitioned from a new phase. Our first phase was keeping everything closed, making certain that people stayed in their houses to the extent possible. Our new phase is to help businesses as much as we can, help you get started again and back on the road. And that's why I asked Dougan and Joe to co-sponsor this seminar, so I can hear from all of you. The rules are that as of right now, construction, manufacturing, houses of worship can open right now today. Essential businesses can stay open. All of the businesses, essential and non-essential, are subject to some requirements. They're all very carefully laid out on the governor's website, mass.gov. Just take a look and download them. There are social distancing requirements. There are training requirements. And there's a self-certification process. And as I've said a couple of times, and if I repeat myself, what I've said earlier, forgive me. But this is not the normal way that government does business. It's a better way. Now, instead of coming to us and asking for a permit to open, you download the technical requirements, download the checklist, fill out the checklist, self-certify that you've done everything, and you're open. We'll be checking every business. Our job is to work with you, give you the the proper direction, answer any questions that you have. We do not be in the business of finding people or enforcement. We want to be in the business of helping people. So with that, Richard McDonald's on the line. Richard, did you want to say anything? Richard is the head of Inspectional Services.
Thank you, Mayor. What I'd like to say is that you need to use our office as an outlet to get information. Our office is basically, at this point, we're into the education and enforcement mode and guidance for you. If you are having any problems understanding the regulations or the standards, please contact us or go to the MassGov webpage on the COVID-19 section. The inspectors were out the last 2 days delivering safety standards to many of you businesses, the office spaces, the manufacturing, churches, and construction. So if you did not get those, please let us know and we'll get them to you, or you can download them from the MassGov site.
And Bonnie Dufresne, Assistant Director of Inspectional Services. Did you want to add anything, Bonnie?
No, Richard said it all. We're here to help, guide, educate.
One thing I do want to say, Mayor, while I have everyone's attention, I hope, we are going with all the current standards that are given to us vis-a-vis the state. Unfortunately, some of these change on a regular basis. So I ask everyone to bear with us. We are giving you the best up-to-date information we have. If those change, we will let you know to the best of our ability. Thank you.
It's unfortunate. We're going through this at City Hall. We're subject to the same regulations everybody else is. And we find that the standards do change from the state from time to time. I'll be polite about this. What kind of questions are we getting? If we're not getting any questions, I'll go through some of the ones that I've been getting. First of all, questions from barbers and beauticians. And Richard, would you want to outline for us what barbers and beauticians need to do to open?
Well,
I'm going to be the first in line to get my hair cut, by the way.
you and me both, Mayor. Hair salons and barber shops may open Monday, the 25th, this coming Monday. There are safety standards which we have delivered to, I hope, all of the barber shops and hair salons in the city. There is a self-checklist. Those are for you to self-check your office space, your staffing and operations, and your cleaning and disinfecting policies.
Richard,
So
is it by appointment only at the barbershops and hair salons?
yes, it is. Appointment only. It's the mandatory safety standards. There is an arranged chairs, so work areas are spaced out at least 6 feet apart. There is a
Everybody have to wear a mask?
yes, everyone must wear a mask. The person cutting your hair and you who are the client must wear a mask. Hygiene protocols must be in place. It's laid out in the safety standards. Again, hopefully those individuals have received them. If not, we'll be happy to get them to you.
Richard, what are the requirements for all businesses about taping temperatures? Is there a requirement that a business take a temperature?
No, there is not. There is not currently at this point.
We see we got a question about that on the chat section. I'm on calls every week with one of the key advisors from Mass General Hospital for the governor, and they've indicated that they feel that the temperature checks have limited utility, and I feel they're better than nothing, but they do not require them right now. So in answer to the person's question, do we require temperature checks at City Hall? We don't. We are going to station somebody at the door starting next week so that people that need access to City Hall, we are going to let them in. We're going to make certain they have a mask, and if they don't have a mask on, we'll provide one. But that's what we're going to do starting Monday. I hope that answers the online question.
And Mayor, if I can just add two things real quick. I just shared a link for anybody to the state's safety standards for hair salons and barbershops. So that includes the checklist, so people can actually see that I put that on Zoom, and we'll also put that on Facebook. Great.
We're getting a lot of questions about restaurants. And Richard, why don't you run through what we know so far about restaurants? We know so far, and I want to stress this because we have had some misunderstanding in the restaurant industry. Restaurants right now cannot do anything. They cannot set up tables outside. They cannot seat people inside or outside. They're solely open, as they were before this phase, for takeout and delivery. Nothing else. No one can sit down and eat inside or outside the restaurant. But Richard, what do we know about the next phase coming up?
Well, phase two, which could be a minimum of 3 weeks away, Mayor, restaurants may open to their customers and have in-restaurant seating subject to the safety standards that are coming out. We do not have those standards yet. So for those restaurants,
I think we can take a pretty good guess what they'll be. The governor has said twice now, including yesterday, the lieutenant governor, that they're going to look at the standards for other states. So we've downloaded the standards from New Hampshire and from Rhode Island. The governor's twice said he likes what Rhode Island is doing and is paying close attention to that. Rhode Island, when they opened, allowed restaurants to open only for outdoor seating. New Hampshire and both New Hampshire and Rhode Island differ about how far away the seats have to be, but there's no question there'll be social distancing required when they do allow restaurants to open. The tables will be either 6 feet or 8 feet apart, somewhere in that range. It's unclear to me whether they're going to allow table service or not. It's very clear to me that when restaurants first open, they are not going to allow inside seating. That's going to have to wait. The restaurants are in phase 2 right now, which is sometime in June, late June. But the lieutenant governor has said twice now that they may come out with guidance, they may come out with some interim steps for restaurants. That tells me those of you who are listening who are restaurant owners might be allowed to do something before the end of June. So just be prepared and make certain that if you're going to open outside, you have adequate space. We'll work with you. We want to make it as easy as possible.
and when those guidance comes out and those safety standards come out, we will be delivering them to all restaurants in the city.
And we have an online question. Where can we access the self-checklist and required signage to be posted in the business?
Is in the MassGov, the COVID-19 link. It's right there.
If there's any questions on that, let us know. And you can see the questions a little bit better than I can if you want to relay those.
Sure, Mayor, one question, and I know it might be more specific in an answer that I've heard this from several restaurants, and Richard, this might be for you, is if we're going to be focusing, a lot of the focus is going to be on outside seating and finding creative ways of extending the number of tables and seats that restaurants can put outside. What will that mean about actually serving alcohol beyond their current leased footprint? Has there been any thought or any plans behind that?
Well, I'm sure the state is going to work with the ABCC on that. Dougan, I'm not sure how that's going to be affected. That's to be determined. Again, we're not getting guidance yet on the restaurants and any outdoor seating. So as soon as we know, we will pass it along.
Well, let me tell you what the rule is today and what I think it's going to be tomorrow. The rule is today that wherever you serve alcohol, whatever your footprint is, if it's inside, if it's outside where you've had outside outdoor seating, sidewalk dining, wherever you're allowed to serve alcohol, you can continue to. But if you want to expand it, you're only inside and you want to expand outside, you need 2 permits. You need a permit from us, from the License Commission, and you need a permit from the ABCC. We'll make ours go very quickly. We can permit you to serve food outside. We'll do that very quickly, get started now. Alcohol, we can do our share very quickly. The ABCC is not quick. They take months. So there is a big push on now, led by the Lieutenant Governor, to change the ABCC rules, to delegate them to us until the end of December. I think that's going to pass the legislature. And when it does, we'll be ready. We're going to set up a system in Haverhill, subject to City Council approval, where we will be able to send our inspectors out, Richard or John Pettis, who's our engineer, or Bill Pillsbury, who's our economic development director. They will measure to make certain that you have the proper distancing requirements, and they will measure to make certain you meet the Americans with Disabilities Act requirement. If you do, we're going to give you a permit on the spot to be able to serve food And if the bill passes in this legislature, serve alcohol outside. We want you to be able to expand your footprint. But this is only going to help you while the weather cooperates, but that's what we're going to do. Bars, nobody's asked about bars, but if you look at all the scientific data, being at a bar is dangerous right now. So I do not see the state opening bars. Right now, they're in phase 3, which we can expect probably no earlier than September. I don't expect bars to be allowed to open before the end of this current calendar year. Restaurants, my own advice to restaurants, for whatever my advice is worth, is to make it as safe as possible and to put that in your advertising, what you're doing, because just being open doesn't mean you get customers. If I were going out to a restaurant, I go all the time, I'd want to know that it was safe. So those are my thoughts. But I'd love to hear some more of the business people. What are your concerns and what are your plans to reopen? We'd love to know. Dougan?
While we look at those, Mayor, one quick question, just clarifying. Is there clarification about what a bar is? I have actually gotten that question from a couple others and saying, if you take an example of.
Does not serve food, does not prepare food.
Okay, so, but if a restaurant, take the lasting room, for example, which I sort of think of as a bar, but they do serve food, they're a restaurant from a permit.
Richard, the answer to that, I think it's a percentage of food compared to alcohol, isn't it? Bonnie might know that.
Well, right now, it's in the state regs, it's clarified as a bar that does not prepare or serve food. So, again, there's a license commission guideline on this that we go by.
Okay.
Now, one of the questions we got online was, are we considering closing Washington Street for outdoor service? Yes, we're considering it, and I'd love to hear from the business community on that. Would that help? How would we divide up the space? What do we do about the folks who live and work downtown? How will they get to and from? And what are your thoughts? I'd love to get some input on that. So I know that other communities are allowing outdoor dining with tents. I'm fine with tents. We're going to get some guidance from the state on whether they're allowable. What the other states have done is they've allowed tents but no sides, so that if you that would defeat the entire purpose of being outside if you had sides. But I'm fine with it. I'm hoping the state will allow us to do it. As far as outdoors on Washington Street, let's put together a plan so that we can do that. I'm all for it.
Mayor, I'm staring at Kate Martin on our team here, who's going to be looking at Facebook to see if there's any questions. But since people can't actually speak back to you, and Joe, please jump in too as well. But can
we substitute that rule and put it in some of our other?
I don't know. Can we?
We put it at home with my family.
That's right. A question about private clubs. Oh, there's a question about private clubs. And are they permitted in a different way?
I have no idea. Richard, can you answer that?
Probably comes to mind.
Private clubs are, well, again, our local license commission would license them. We have any food permits come through us. I'll have to get I'm going to have to clarify how we're handling that going forward and what date they may or may not open.
Mm-hmm. Mayor, if I can.
Richard, right now, private clubs like the Elks, where I've been a member for 40 years, the Greek Club downtown, where I'm not a member, they're not allowed to open, is that right?
Correct, they're closed at this point.
Okay, so we'll have to wait for guidance from the state on that.
Yeah.
Mayor, one of the things that I have sort of gleaned from a lot of people is I think a lot of people do see a window of opportunity to do some experimentation with shutting down Washington Street. I think that there is a very reasonable level of anxiety as well about doing that and making sure that it doesn't actually hurt the businesses that we're trying to serve or overly disrupt the residents who live on Washington Street primarily.
Why don't we put together a plan to try it and see how that works? And maybe we do it with one lane or maybe a portion. Let's put together a plan. I'd love to give it a try. Is it needed? That's really what I want to know.
Right.
When we've done outdoor dining at festivals, I don't see a lot of people, eating at the restaurants, or I see them going inside. So I'd love to hear from John Fahimian at the Tap and whoever owns some of the other restaurants down there.
Got Deanna Galliero from G's on the line here.
Mr. Is that Mr. Guerrero on the line? Or
Uh,
Mrs.?
Ms. Guerrero, yeah. Deanna's on the line. Well, she can't talk, but she's here.
Well, Deanna, I'd love to hear, you have some outdoor dining right there, both on the side, and we can make sure you have some spot available in front. Do you need access to the street also? Or is it too early to tell? I think one thing we all want to know is when business opens, how many people are going to go? If you look at this Wisconsin, where they opened up all of a sudden after a court order, the bars, taverns, they were mobbed with young people. Young people think they're exempt anyway.
Mr. Mayor, I think that there's a pent-up demand that people are in fact going to come out and serve and be served by our restaurant industry. I think it's very important, and I think the idea of trying to make it as easy as possible to encourage restaurants to reopen is going to be very, very important. The idea of bringing downtown Washington Street as a test case, or even utilizing the city-owned parking lots, which I've seen in some other states right now with a tent, is very important. And then the idea that I mentioned the other night was that some states, restaurants are using what they call the car hop service. And what that means is that someone would be sitting in a parking lot, or in our case, it could be on Washington Street. The restaurant would deliver the food to the table. In essence, the old-fashioned car hop service idea. But I think we need to do whatever we can, that whatever ideas the restaurants come up with as well, to get them to reopen, because they've been shuttered for so long. They simply are in need of being back in business. So we look forward to working with you on that proposal.
I like the car hop service. I'd love to hear what the restaurant industry has to say about it. In effect, my wife and I do the car hop service. Last night we ate out at the Bradford Seafood. We love all of our restaurants. We went and picked up food at Bradford Seafood, and then we go out and we eat in our car. We had nice food from Dunkin' Donuts today, and we ate at Winnie Park. So we do the car hop service now, and I'm wondering, would it help the restaurants if we were to allow this downtown, for example? We have a question from Pentucket Players. They're a great group, by the way. Those of you who haven't seen a play from Pentucket Players, I'd really encourage you to do so. Will City Hall be open by September? John, I doubt it, to be honest with you. That when you look at the data, indoor venues of large people is what is dangerous. And so I don't know for certain, but I doubt that they're going to allow an indoor venue by
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment about that? One of the issues that I've been concerned about is that when the state looks at its data, every city and town is lumped into one number. I think when you're talking to the governor and to the mayor's association, perhaps you should ask them if they can separate out, for example, Essex County, or for example, the other or communities like ours in the Merrimack Valley, so that we don't get lumped into the statistics that are coming out of Boston as well. Boston is obviously at a much difficult situation than we're at as well. But I think if we could maybe isolate out the Merrimack Valley, we may be able to show that our data is actually better.
Well, they do to a certain extent, Joe, but I'm not sure we want them to completely. What they're saying is if there's a hot spot, then they're going to treat that differently. The way it works, so that everyone understands, is that a local city, at least as of today, can be stricter than the state. Boston and Somerville have said they're not reopening, despite what the governor says, and they're not going to allow construction to proceed. But we cannot be less lenient, more lenient. So if the state says restaurants can't open, we can't open them. If the state says restaurants can open, we can decline to do so. I'm not going to do that. I think that we want to encourage our businesses and do what we can to help. So I think John Buzzell had another question, which is what about outdoor venues? There's a lot of guidance, and Richard might know more about this, but there's a lot of guidance on outdoor venues right now. Richard, what can you tell us about those?
Yes, Mayor. We speak daily with the state in regards to some of these, and the guidance for outdoor venues at this point is wait for more guidance. So that's what we're doing. We will wait until that comes out. Unfortunately, phase 4 is when full resumption of all outdoor recreation and activities will be allowed, but I think the state is looking at certain venues, and they will come out with guidance. Again, we have to wait, and as soon as we get it, we will pass it along.
Well, I know that with outdoor recreation activities, there's some allowed now in phase 1, and they're talking about issuing guidance for phase 2. There's going to be more open. Outdoor venues for concerts, et cetera. I don't really know, but John, if you give either myself, I would recommend you call Vinny Ouellette. He's the member of our team that's most up to date on outdoor things. Give him a call at the Citizen Center. He might have a better answer than I do.
Mayor, there's a question from a Melinda Barrett.
I've heard the name somewhere.
Should we, or comment, I think we should look at both Columbus Park and Washington Square, that they may be made available to restaurants for use.
I agree. I think it's a great comment by our council president. Washington Square, I've always felt would be perfect for outdoor dining. Maybe not perfect. Some of the bricks and the cobblestones need to be reset, but it'd be great for outdoor dining. It would be like being in Europe. There aren't any restaurants right near there. I'm not sure the restaurants would take advantage of it, but I'd love it. Same thing with Columbus Park. I think Columbus Park would be a great place for outdoor dining, and we do have a couple of restaurants there. So let's see if anybody's interested. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, Mayor, if I can segue from that, there's a question by Keons. Would Keons be able to expand into the park close to their restaurant, which I guess would be the Washington?
Columbus Park?
Columbus Park, rather, yes.
As far as I'm concerned, yes. We don't have any provisions for that right now in our regs, but we'll work with you to make those provisions, and I'm all for it. Whatever we can do like that is great by me.
Yeah, and that's how that car hop service could work. They take advantage of that space. The restaurant delivers the food to the people that are sitting there. They have a great meal, and they serve their interests, and they serve the restaurant at the same time.
I'll tell you what I'd be interested in if the restaurants are. I would be interested in allowing restaurants to do dining outdoors along the boardwalk behind the Tap restaurant, or the boardwalk that goes a little bit further up around Haverhill Bank. And I'd be interested in allowing dining outside in that little park. I don't think it has a name, down behind the Tap. And I'd be very interested in allowing a restaurant to set up down in Riverside Park, right along the waterfront there. And maybe we could send out an RFP, lease out space. Maybe different restaurants could try it. I'm interested in proposals that would allow dining down there. That'd be a wonderful spot. If you go to Europe, you see dining all along in parks all the time. It works out great, and we can make it work here too.
Amen. Mayor, a question from Mohammed, who owns Wicked Big Coffee.
How you doing? He can hear me, but can't respond.
Yeah, so he's texted a question. His question is similar to what we're talking about. He's asking about Essex Street and if we would consider expanding, the experiments that we're talking about in terms of shutting down Washington Street, if we would consider that around his neck.
I'd certainly consider allowing you to dine outside there, taking some parking spaces, building a parklet. We're going to come up with some regulations and a grant opportunity so that we can expand the little parklets out in front of your place. I don't know that shutting down Essex Street would be something that would be considered. That would be, there's only 2 restaurants there on Essex Street, would be inconveniencing a lot of people, but maybe I'll consider anything. We'll take a look at it. Maybe we could shut down 1 lane of Essex Street on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, something like that. We're open to any suggestions.
Mayor, there's another question related to the farmers market.
You're right. You know, Jeff Grassi knows more about this than I do. There are guidelines right now on farmers market. Farmers markets are essential businesses, so they are allowed to open subject to restrictions. Richard, are you familiar with the restrictions, what they are? I'm not.
No, there are specific guidelines, Mayor, and again, Jeff was given them and we have them. Anyone needs them, we will be happy to provide them to them.
Mayor, another question. With all the focus on restaurants, would small non-restaurant businesses be able to utilize outdoor space, sidewalk space to increase sales?
You know, I think that's a great idea. What do you think of that, Richard? We traditionally have not allowed that because people block the sidewalk. But to me, we have to be innovative now. So I would have no problem with that. What do you think, Richard?
I agree. Whatever we can do to assist them, we have to do it, and that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask is, you have to be careful you don't block the whole sidewalk. We do have an active disabilities commission, and we should, so we want to be certain about that.
Great. We're just looking to see if there's any other questions, Mayor. It looks like we've gotten through most of the ones. Here actually is the one. Specific to tents and serving alcohol, do you know if the space would need to be all fenced in or gated in order to serve alcohol outdoors? In New Hampshire, this is not required. Just trying to decide if we can and should attempt to obtain a tent in Joseph's parking lot. This is from Deanna Guerrero.
Hi, Deanna. It's, and Deanna and I have talked. We just have to wait and see what the state guidelines on that are. We don't know yet. We won't require it. I can be pretty confident of that. Whether the state does or not, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I think we can take an example of what Tuscan Kitchen did up in Salem, New Hampshire. They did a tremendous opportunity with the tent situation, the way they control access in and out, and they've done it very, very well for the safety of the patrons as well as for the building business ability. And I think that there's opportunities that we need to look at, and I think that's a great example. As much outdoor dining as we can offer.
Yeah. I'm all for it. Outdoor dining is going to be very largely regulated by the state, though. They're going to come up with some specific guidelines, and as I said earlier, we can't be more lenient than them. But will we require a fence? No.
Mayor, Council President Barrett has also just, she just added her 2 cents here regarding, I think, a couple different areas. She points out the area near Wicked Big as well. Parklets that allow for pedestrian travel on the street side and
Yes.
dining, buildings, sidewalks for sales for retailers way back in the day were very successful. I think that's
One
something.
of the things that we plan to do is if a restaurant wants to expand and there's insufficient room because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, we're going to use some of the money we got from the federal government, our CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money, and we'll expand the sidewalk on a temporary basis. We don't want to do it permanently because eventually, we hope, we're going to need the parking spaces. But we'll do it on a temporary basis so that pedestrians will be able to walk around and the restaurants will be able to dine outside. We're going to make this as easy and seamless as we can. Government's never all that easy or seamless, but we're going to try our best. You know, my grandparents opened a restaurant, I guess it was a century ago now. And in those days, there were no government requirements at all. You just opened up. That's why you had a lot of little mom and pop stores, people opening restaurants right below where they live. But nowadays, there's a lot of requirements, and we have to follow them too. And they're for good reason.
If there's any other questions, folks, we're probably wrapping up. There's no more on Facebook or on here. So, Mayor, I think you've gotten to all of them. I will say we have recorded this conversation, and we'll share that with the mayor's office, with Joe and the Merrimack Valley Chamber, and have that accessible on our social media as well if anybody needs it.
I'm available at 978-374-2300 or mayor@cityofhaverhill.com. I take every call. I read every email. And please feel free to call me. My cell phone.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks. My cell phone is 978-265-7049. And please feel free to call me there. As I said at the very beginning, we're transitioning now from an enforcement phase to a help phase. So please let us know how we can help you. We want to get Haverhill moving again, and we want your businesses to open. Dougan, thanks for sponsoring this. Joe, thanks for being a participant, and we appreciate that very much. Richard and Bonnie, thanks for participating. Do I see one last question?
Yeah.
Nope, I don't. Okay, well, thank you all very, very much. Please feel free to call me if anyone has a question. Thanks, Dougan. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.